Hello, this is Mr. Jarrett, and in this video tutorial, we are going to be 3D modeling this object in SolidWorks. So the first thing that I'm going to take note of here is where my origin is located. So I see my origin is located on the bottom of this and on the corner. So depending on how you would actually attempt to draw this, that would allow you to actually do a mid-plane extrusion. It would allow you to do a mirror of features across. There's different possibilities. But I'm actually going to be drawing this from the top view so I can draw all of this and just extrude this base up. Okay, so there are different ways of going about this. My second thing I'd take note of are my units. And here I can see that I am in IPS. That's why we have a lot of fractions and decimal places. So let's begin. I'm going to pull this over to my other screen. And in SolidWorks, I'm going to create a new part file. Make sure my inches are in IPS, which my computer defaults to, so I'm good to go. And I'm going to be sketching on the top plane. Now you saw how that rotated here. Since this is in the middle, we're actually going to be drawing vertically like that, and when it goes to 3D, it'll be on the same view as what you see in the picture. So just get your rectangle tool itself, just draw a big rectangle over here. I'm going to hit escape. I'm going to select my origin, hold in shift and select this sideline, and I'm going to make them have the relation of midpoint. So it's going to lock that midpoint of this line onto my origin. So now when I go up or down, you can see it goes symmetrically. Okay. Then I can go ahead and I can dimension this. So it says the bottom portion here is 3 1/4, so 3.25. Says the overall length of the entire thing is going to be a total of 5, and I can also see that in two different places. So the one spot that stands out to me, it shows right here from the corner to the origin is 2.5. So since this is symmetrical, that's also 2.5, meaning it's 5. The other place that it shows that same number, kind of floating up here in the middle of nowhere, but that also says 5 right there. Okay, so I just did this 2.5, which also put 2.5 back here, same thing. So that just gave us a fully defined base that we can extrude up. And then from there, we'll actually be able to put on those circles. So I'm going to hit the extrude tool, and the total height of this is 0.75 or 3/4 of an inch. I'll hit the green check. Okay, so there I'm good. Now I'm going to sketch right up on top again. Hit Control-8 to rotate to a nice view. Here I'm going to draw a whole bunch of circles. So I'm only going to draw on one side, and then I'll just mirror it across. So you can do this in several different ways. I'm going to do just the outside first. I'll hit escape and I'll make these equal to one another. I'll also click off and I'll select their center points, and I'm going to make them horizontal from one another. And then I can start dimensioning these. So it is a little bit confusing, but you'll see if we're looking back at that circle, it says 3/4. Well, that's actually 3/4 from the edge in. So 0.75 in, and it's also 0.75 this way. Okay, so I'm going to pull that over just to show you where I got those measurements from. So 0.75 right here, it says from the center point up to the far edge. Okay, and the in is actually this 0.75 or 3/4. Okay. So we need to do that same thing this way to make sure that this is in 0.75. I can also just double check this. It actually says from circle to circle is 1 3/4, which that's what we have right here. So you could have done that two different ways. It really doesn't matter how you would have done that. Okay, now as far as the actual diameter goes of those circles, it says that there's a 1/2 inch drill for all 4 holes. Okay, so that's not necessarily the size. The size that we need is 1 inch. And again, I'm going to pull this back over. So we see this 3/4, we see that 3/4, we see this note here for the hole, but where's the measurement? Well, you can't see this one, it's not on this, it's not on this, it's hidden right here. Okay, so you see there's 1 inch, it says from the outside to outside of that circle, 1 inch. So that's what we have. Now these are fully defined, so that's good. So let's get our line tool, hit a construction line. just draw a construction line straight across. I'm going to select both of these, and I'm going to mirror them along that construction line so that they go over there. Now I can go to the Features tab and hit Extrude, and I'm going to be extruding these up, as you can see, and they go up a total of 1/8. So you could do 1/8, or if you know that measurement is 0.125. Green check. So now it kind of looks like a Lego piece. We're going to be sketching one more time right up here on top. I'll hit Control 8, and I selected on top of my cylinders, okay, not on top of this rectangle. So now I can just move my mouse over this and get my center points. So you could do this, you can mirror, you can do it the same way we just did it, or you could just draw the 4 circles in. It's pretty much the same thing. Okay, same amount of work. I just drew all 4 in. I'm going to highlight all 4 and make them equal. Now I only have to dimension one of them. So that inside is a 1/2 inch because it says a 1/2 inch drill. Features tab and hit Extrude, cut, and we're going to cut through all. So it cuts right down through the middle of all of them. So now my base is pretty much done. Now to do that middle part. The middle part here shows 2 different things. It shows a rib, which we'll do later on. That's like a support piece. And it shows this kind of curved arm that comes out that holds this cylinder. So we're going to do this arm portion first because we don't really know where the rib goes to until we do this. And we also can't really draw the cylinder unless we make a whole bunch of planes until we have this arm because that's connected to it. So we're going to be sketching on the front plane. We're going to be drawing this portion, and we're going to do a mid-plane extrusion. So get your sketch tool, and we're going to hit this drop down, select the front plane. I'll hit Control 8 so it rotates around. I'll reposition myself here. And you can kind of see that there are little measurements of 5/8. So what that means is it's actually going up from this corner as a straight line, then it's curving, and then there's another straight line. So you've probably seen this trick before. If you go back over with the line tool and just wiggle your mouse, it turns into a curve tool. So you could do that, and you can draw up around like this, wiggle again, and get that curve. So you want a shape that looks like that. So you could do that, or if you're not good with the line tool or you don't want to do that, I'm going to backtrack just so you can see how you could also do this. You could just get I backed way out here. So you could just get the line tool and then switch off and go to the arc tool. So arc tool. And that was the 3-point arc tool, by the way. And then I just got my line tool, and I'm going to continue over straight, back up, over again. Again, get your 3-point arc tool. So you see that line tool, I think doing that is a little bit faster. And then connect that over. So don't forget to draw that bottom line there. Now everywhere this arc actually connects into the straight line needs to be tangent. So hold in Shift and select both of them and set those to tangent. So you're going to have to do this 4 different times. Okay, so now it's tangent on all 4 of them. And now we can actually go ahead and start to dimension some of this stuff. So you can see if you zoom in right here on this picture, or if you look a little bit closer, you can see it says 5/8. That's that straight piece. It says the curve actually has a radius of 5/8, and that gives us up to here. So we don't necessarily know what this is yet, which I'll help you with here in a minute. This part here, this big curve, is 1 3/8. It doesn't tell us the height, but you're going to see that that's just going to come into play. It's going to come in automatically, and it doesn't tell us this straight piece. Okay, so what we do see though is both of these curves come from the same center point. So before we actually dimension these, we're going to have to lock these center points in. Now you could dimension them first, but it really doesn't matter. So let's just let's just hit escape here off our dimension tool. I apologize. And we'll actually set both of these arcs to being concentric. So concentric. And now they share the same center point. That's probably going to make your dimensioning go a little bit easier. So 5/8, so 5 divided by 8. And that's going to be 0.625. So if you want to actually see those measurements, you can change your unit precision over here to 3 decimal places. We'll click that arc. That is also 5/8, so 5/8, 3 decimal places. Again, it doesn't tell us this length yet. It doesn't just simply spell it out. And this is 1 3/8. So 1 space 3/8. Okay, and it's not 1.38, it's actually 1.375. Okay, 375. Now you see how all this is fully defined because they share the same center point. So all of this stuff is locked in. Now this line is still blue. So let's look over here and kind of figure this out. So if we need to know the distance of these straight lines, let's make them go all the way to the center of this hole. So we know when we draw that circle, that cylinder top, it's going to be tangent. Okay? So by doing that, we need to know the distance out. And if I follow that down, I can see right here it is 1 5/8 of an inch out. And that's out from the edge. So if we get our Smart Dimension tool, we click on the origin or this edge, and that blue line, this is going to be 1 5/8. So 1 space 5/8. And that's going to push it way out there. So as you can see, it's 1.625. Now I can go to my Features tab and hit Extrude. And since we are drawing in the middle, we want to change this to mid-plane. So from blind to mid-plane. And the total distance there is going to be the same thing as that circle or that cylinder top, which you can see is 2. Green check. So I'm going to pull this back over here to kind of explain the next portion. And the next portion is going to be the part where we're going to have to make a plane. So you can see right here that this cylinder doesn't necessarily have a measurement of how far up it is or how far down it is. So a lot of people would just sketch right on the top and either try to do the math of, dividing this, or they'd make a mid-plane from this flat surface to the top and this flat surface to the bottom, draw right in the middle, and they would extrude this. But what they would run into is the problem that you would not get this measurement correct. So in order to get this measurement correct, we are just going to make a plane that's floating all the way up here at the top at that measurement and then work our way down. Okay, so I'm going to pull this to the side. And now this time I'm going to go to my Features tab and hit Reference Geometry Plane. And my first reference is going to be the bottom. Because the origin is right here, we're going to select the bottom. And we're going to set the measurement at 3.183. Okay, so if yours is grayed out, you got to click on that distance, that offset distance, and type that in. And you'll see that it's probably going to default of going down. So if you hit flip distance, it will go up. We'll hit the green check. So now we're at a plane that's way up here, and that's at the very, very top of where that cylindrical portion is. So now with the plane selected, I'm going to hit the sketch tool. I'll hit Control-8, and you notice it flipped me upside down because this is actually the bottom of the plane. So if you hit Control-8 again, now you're at the top of the plane. And since we made this line extrude all the way out or come all the way out to the center of that cylinder, the midpoint of this line is actually the center of that cylinder. Okay, so I'm going to use my circle tool, move my mouse over this line, and I'll click on that yellow dot, and I'm going to make the top part first. So that top part has a diameter of 1.555. So whatever this object is used for, it must be very specific up there if you have a weird decimal place like that. So 1.555. Go to the Features tab and hit Extrude. And since we are kind of up here, we're actually working ourselves back down. The distance down we need is 1/4 of an inch, as you can see on the picture. 0.25, green check. Now we're going to get our sketch tool again, and this time you want to sketch on the bottom of that cylinder. Again, you can hit Control-8 And it doesn't matter if you're on this bottom view or the top view, but we're going to get the circle tool. And if you move your mouse over that circle, that center point pops up. And since we made this portion of it a diameter of 2, that is actually the diameter of this circle. So if I just drag this out, click on that corner, it's going to be coincident. Also, it's tangent. It doesn't say that, but it is. And it's already dimension 4, so you can see it's fully defined. So now we'll go to the Features tab and hit Extrude again. And let's rotate around so we can see what we're doing. You can see now we're working down again. So the total distance of this portion of the cylinder, it says that it's 1 3/16. So I'm going to type in 1 space 3/16 and green check. So you can see by doing that, I have an odd number here and a different number here, or a different amount at the top and bottom, which isn't specified on that picture. But the distance from the top of this to the bottom is now correct. So now let's just kind of finish this by putting a hole through it. So sketch back up on top, get your circle tool, again, move your mouse over the circle so that center point pops up. If you want to be on a flat view, you can. I just didn't bother to rotate. And this time it says it has a diameter of 1. So it says 1-inch drill. Okay, and drill means we're going to go through the whole thing. So extrude cut, set this to through all. And now that top portion is finished. If this plane bothers you, you can right click on it and hit hide. That's a little eyeball and it goes away. So the last part we're going to have to do here is the rib, that supportive piece. So I'm going to hit the sketch tool, and when it asks us what plane, since that goes right through the middle, if I hit this drop down and select the front plane, that plane is right in the middle. I'll hit Control 8 to a nice flat view, and here I'm going to use my 3-point arc. I don't know where the center point is. I don't have a starting and stopping spot, so I can't use tangent, but I can use the 3-point arc. So it goes from this corner up to this curve. So just click somewhere on the curve. Make sure you don't connect it to one of these yellow dots. Just click somewhere on the curve. And then it doesn't necessarily matter the kind of curvature yet. So I'm going to select that line, hold in Shift and select this line because they blend in nicely. So it's going to be set to tangent. Okay. Now it could move yours way up here. It could move it way down here. It doesn't matter yet because we have not defined this as far as its measurement. So let's define that. So let's click on that curve with our Smart Dimension tool. And if you look real close, it actually says 5 3/4. So 5.75. And it will reposition wherever that tangency is for you. It should be fully defined. Now you're going to say, well, why don't we close in this bottom? The rib tool doesn't actually need that. Okay, you could do this as an extrusion. You just have to trace all of this and close it in, do a mid-plane extrusion. But the rib tool is meant to do right here what we're doing. So I drew my one path. If I go over the Features tab and hit rib, you can see that little symbol. There's different features. You can go just to one side, to the other side, or you can go both ways. We want both ways, and the distance here we want 5/8. So you can type in 5/8, okay, and that is 0.625. And you can see it's showing both ways. And the arrow is actually pointing down, meaning it's going to kind of extrude left and right and extrude down until it hits everything. So once we hit the green check, you see how it fills that whole thing in there nicely. So the rib tool is a nice little feature to know. It's one of those ones that you kind of forget about because it's small, it's hidden over here, you don't use it that often, but it is very nice because you don't have to go through and trace a lot of extra stuff. So now we have that whole entire thing drawn. Let's change our material. So if we hit Edit Material, this is actually AISI 1020. We can hit Apply and Close. And let's evaluate this. And it says that the mass is 5.8, which is correct. That's before fillets. The volume is correct. The surface area is correct. I did not give you a center of mass before. I just gave you a center of mass after. So this is good right now. So I would recommend saving this here. And then let's actually add those fillets. There are a lot of fillets. So it says all fillets and rounds are 0.05. 0.05. And then we just need to go through and dimension or fillet anything that we see that has that little curved stuff on it. So the bottom of it's probably going to be flat. Means we can't just click on these flat sides because it will also fillet the bottom. So you do have to do this line by line, which is rather tedious. So if you just follow with me here, I'm going to go line by line and do the entire thing. Okay, so I did those three sides, not the bottom. Rotate around to this. Up underneath, we're going to go around this piece. So I'm just going to try to do this one side that I see here first. It's all curved. Now you notice up at the top, this looks like it's more machined than everything else. Everything else kind of just looks like it's curved around. So none of this is filleted up at the top. It shows those little curved lines at the base of all of these circles. Chaining around this way. Shows it going up. Shows this is also curved. So you notice when I click on this edge, it looks like it kind of takes all that away. We might have to come back in here and do that edge later on. Same thing with that. So let's just continue and get the ones that we can. If your computer lets you do that, by all means do it. Mine is just being frustrating right now. It doesn't want to do that. So I'm just going to continue to work my way around. Again, I'm going to have to come back in here and do this top portion later. And it looks like I have everything right now. I have everything good. Oh, I missed this one. Okay, so I'm going to hit the green check. And it did allow all that, but I missed a few, so I'm going to hit fillet again. 0.05 again. Select this line, I'll select that line, and now you can see it goes down that rib and across the back. So I'm also going to fillet that portion if it lets me, and it didn't, so you might have to do that portion by itself again. Green check, and last one. Okay, and there you can see it's all now filleted. So let's go ahead and now check our mass again and see if this is correct. We go to the Evaluate tab and hit Mass Properties. So my mass is still the same thing because those fillets really didn't do too much. Where it kind of took away some materials, they added other material down in these small creases. So the mass is correct. The volume is now dropped a little bit, but that is now correct for us. The surface area is now correct, and the center of mass is still correct here. So if you got all of that, you're good. You can save this and move on to the next part. If you messed up, please go back and try to figure out where you're at wrong. The majority of places that people go wrong are on the fillets, or obviously this top portion over here, the cylindrical portion.